In the land of Canaan, there lived a couple named Isaac and Rebekah. They wanted a child, but it took a long time. Isaac prayed to the Lord for a miracle. Rebekah became pregnant, but she was worried. She felt something unusual in her womb. She was confused and anxious. She asked the Lord for guidance. The Lord told her that two nations were in her womb. Two peoples would separate. From your body, one people will be stronger than the other. The older will serve the younger. These words marked the destiny of her family and entire nations. Finally, the day of childbirth arrived. Everyone waited anxiously. To everyone's surprise, it was not just one baby but two. It was twins. The first was reddish-skinned and hairy. They named him Esau. The second came out grasping his brother's heel. They named him Jacob. From the start, it was clear that these two brothers were very different. The two brothers were very different. Esau was the firstborn. He was a skilled hunter and a man of the field. He was strong and robust. He was always seeking adventures. His body was covered in hair, giving him a wild appearance. Jacob was a quiet man. He preferred the Esau was a hunter, while Jacob stayed at home. Esau was outgoing, while Jacob was introverted. Esau was interested in business and strategy, while Jacob was interested in traditions and trade. The brothers had different personalities and interests, but there was also their parents had different favorites. Isaac liked Esau, while Rebekah liked Jacob. Jacob was calmer and stayed home. Years later, Malachi said he loved Jacob but hated Esau. This didn't mean he hated Esau personally. It was about God's plan for humanity. It was a declaration that Esau was the firstborn son. He had rights and responsibilities. In the culture of the time, the eldest son inherited his father's possessions and the patriarchal blessing. This was a kind of spiritual legacy. This blessing carried promises, including the promise made to Abraham that through his descendants, all the nations of the earth would be blessed. However, destiny had surprising twists in store for these brothers. The prophecy given to Rebekah before the twins were born that the older would serve the younger. Esau's choices, impulsiveness, and lack of appreciation for his birthright would shape future events. As the years passed, Esau and Jacob became increasingly different. Esau was a fearless hunter. A brave and skilled hunter. He was strong and hairy. He lived in the moment. Jacob. He grew wise and cunning. He watched the world around him, learning about people and business. His mind was always working, planning and anticipating. Jacob was less physically impressive than his brother, but he had inner strength and determination. The family dynamics were complex. Isaac, now old and with poor vision, liked Esau's strong presence and the food he brought home. For the patriarch, Esau represented a strong lineage. Rebekah saw in Jacob qualities she thought he was more suited to lead God's people because he was more spiritual and intelligent. This preference was noticed by the brothers. Esau was confident and lived his days. Jacob grew with a keen awareness of his secondary position and a burning desire to change his destiny. The story of these brothers invites us to reflect on the complexities of family relationships and how our choices can have far-reaching consequences. Esau and Jacob were born to be rivals. Their feud would affect many people. As Esau hunted in Canaan, Jacob watched and planned. This would be one of the most important events in the Bible. It would change their lives forever. The sun was scorching the land of Canaan. Its rays made the air shimmer over the parched plains. In this arid landscape, another chapter in the story of Esau and Jacob was unfolding. The day had begun like many others, but it was destined to become a milestone in the history of two nations. Esau, the skilled hunter, had set out at dawn with his bow on. He went into the wild lands to hunt. The sun rose high and the heat intensified. The hunt was usually successful, but that day it was exceptionally difficult. The animals seemed to have vanished, hiding from the heat. Jacob was in the family tents, doing his daily tasks. His eyes he watched the horizon, waiting for his brother. There was tension in the air. Something big was about to happen. The sun set, and Esau came back. He was tired and hungry. His body was weak. Esau was hungry and thirsty. He could barely stand. He smelled food cooking. His stomach hurt. He looked at the pot over the fire. It was filled with lentils. Jacob had made stew. "Please give me some," Esau said. He was thirsty. "Stew? I'm starving." The words came out in gasps. Jacob, who had been watching his brother's approach, did not respond immediately. His shrewd eyes studied Esau, assessing the situation. The only sounds were the bubbling of the stew and Esau's labored breathing. Then Jacob spoke, carefully choosing his words. "Of course, my brother. But first, sell me your birthright." The request seemed absurd, hung in the air between them. The birthright was sacred. It included a double portion of the inheritance and the leadership of the family. It also included the spiritual blessing that carried the divine promises made to Abraham. Esau, in his state of exhaustion and extreme hunger, did not seem to grasp the weight of what was being asked of him. His response came quickly and thoughtlessly. "I'm about to die of hunger. What good is the birthright to me?" Jacob recognized the unique opportunity before him. Pressed on. "Swear to me right now." Esau, in a moment of weakness, swore, handing over his birthright for a bowl of food. The pact was sealed. Jacob served Esau bread and the lentil stew. He ate and drank, satisfying his hunger and thirst, but losing something valuable. When he finished, Esau got up and left, seemingly indifferent to what he had done. This seemingly trivial moment was a monumental turning point. The words exchanged that day between his actions revealed much about his character. He was a man of the moment, driven by his immediate desires and needs. The hunger and fatigue led him to disregard something of immense spiritual and cultural value. His willingness to trade his birthright for a meal demonstrated a lack of long-term vision. Jacob was calculating and opportunistic. He recognized the value of the birthright and was willing to take advantage of his brother's momentary weakness to obtain it. His actions revealed a deep understanding of the importance of spiritual blessings and a fierce determination to achieve what the days that followed were tense. Esau recovered from his exhaustion and seemed to forget about the pact he had made. Jacob kept the secret of his new position, waiting for the right moment to claim what he now considered his. The news of the incident spread throughout the family. Rebekah, the mother of the twins, heard about the agreement with a mix of surprise and satisfaction. She had always seen Jacob as the more suitable son to carry on the family legacy. Isaac remained oblivious to what had transpired. His failing eyesight prevented him from perceiving the subtle changes. This event raises questions about what we value in our lives. What do we consider important? Are we willing to give up our heritage for immediate gains? The story of Esau and Jacob invites us to reflect on our choices and priorities. The episode illustrates how seemingly small decisions can have far-reaching consequences. Esau's impulsive choice affected his life and altered the course of history for his people. We don't always realize the weight of our actions at the moment we perform them. The sale of the birthright makes us question destiny versus free will. The prophecy that the older would serve the younger seemed to be coming to fruition. But to what extent were Esau, Jacob's actions were predestined? To what extent were they the result of their own choices? As time passed, the implications of this agreement began to manifest. Jacob, now the holder of the birthright, adopted a more confident stance. He started to get more involved in family matters, preparing for the leadership role he believed was his by right. Esau continued his life as before, seemingly without remorse or regret for the exchange he had made. However, the seeds of conflict had been sown. The tension between the brothers was growing. It was only a matter of time before it came to the surface, bringing consequences that neither of them could fully foresee. The story of Esau and Jacob, particularly the sale of the birthright, continues to fascinate and intrigue readers and scholars to this day. It offers lessons about family, choices, consequences, and the balance between destiny and free will. As the sun set on that day, no one could have predicted what would happen. The stage was set for more dramatic events that would shape the future of Esau and Jacob and even entire nations. The story of these brothers was far from over. Years had passed since Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of lentils. Life in Isaac's tent had carried on. The surface remained unchanged, but beneath it, fate continued to move, setting the stage for one of the most dramatic moments in the family's history. Isaac, the patriarch, was now an old man. His eyes, once bright and piercing, had become nearly blind. Isaac knew it was time to pass on the patriarchal blessing, a deeply significant spiritual and cultural act. On a quiet afternoon, Isaac called for Esau, his firstborn. His voice was weak but still carried authority. "My son, I don't know when I'll die. Go hunt something tasty for me to eat so I can bless you before I die." Rebekah, Isaac's wife and mother of the twins, had overheard the conversation between Isaac and Esau. She rushed to find Jacob, her favorite son. "Bring me 2 choice young goats. I will prepare a tasty meal for your father. Then you will take it to your father to eat so that he may bless you before his death." Jacob was always shrewd. He immediately recognized the risks of the plan. "But my mother," he argued, "my brother Esau is a hairy man and I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? He will realize that I am trying to deceive him and will curse me instead of blessing me." Rebekah was determined in her purpose. She replied firmly, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just obey. Get the goats for me." Rebekah prepared the meal exactly as Isaac liked it. "Who are you?" "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you asked. Please sit up and eat of my game so that you may bless me. I still suspicious. Touch me." His hands ran over Jacob's arms. Jacob's arms felt the goat's hairy skin. Jacob's voice said, "I am Esau." Isaac asked again, "Are you really my son Esau?" Jacob lied. His heart pounded. His father could hear it. Finally convinced, Isaac asked for the meal. He ate and drank the wine that Jacob brought him. Then he called his son close and kissed him. As he smelled the scent of Esau's clothes, Isaac's last doubts dissipated. With a solemn voice, the patriarch began to pronounce the blessing. "May nations serve you, and your brothers bow down to you. May the sons of your mother bow down to you. May everyone who curses you be cursed, and everyone who blesses you be blessed." The words echoed through the tent. Jacob trembled under the weight of the moment. He could hardly believe that his plan had succeeded. The blessing meant for Esau was now his. Jacob barely left his father's presence when Esau returned from his hunt. Proud of his success and eager to receive the blessing, he prepared the meal and brought it to Isaac. My father called Esau and asked him to eat from my hunt so that you may bless me." Isaac was confused and alarmed. He asked who he was. "I am your son," Esau replied. "I am your firstborn." Isaac trembled. He realized he had been deceived. "Who hunted the game and brought it to you?" "I did. I ate it all before you arrived and blessed him. He will be blessed." Esau cried out, "Bless me too, my father." Isaac replied, "Your brother came and tricked me." Esau was angry and sad. They called him Jacob because he was deceived twice. "He has deceived me twice. He took my birthright and now he has taken my blessing." Then, turning to his father, Esau asked, "Have you not reserved a blessing for me? I have made him your ruler, and given him your relatives as servants. I have given him grain and wine. What can I do for you now, my son?" But Esau did not give up. He continued to plead. "Is there not a blessing left, my father? Bless me also." And he wept bitterly, moved by his son's anguish. Isaac finally offered a blessing to Esau, but it was a bitter blessing. "You will live by the sword and serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will break his yoke from your neck." Isaac's words echoed through the tent. They sealed the fate of his two sons, and the nations that would descend from them. Jacob's deception had achieved its goal. He was now the bearer of the patriarchal blessing. But the cost of this act would be high. Esau hated Jacob. He thought, "My father will die soon. I will kill my brother Jacob." Rebekah knew about Esau's plans. She told Jacob to flee to her brother Laban's house in Haran. "Stay," she said, "stay with me for a while until your brother's fury passes." Jacob left, leaving behind his family, his land, and the chaos he had created. He had obtained the blessing he desired, but at what cost? His journey would take him to distant lands, where he would face challenges and trials that would test his faith and character. Meanwhile, Esau was bitter and resentful. He was determined to reclaim what he believed was rightfully his. The chasm between the brothers was now an insurmountable abyss. This story of deception leads us to reflect on the nature of our own actions and choices. How often do we allow our immediate desires to blind us to the long-term consequences? Long-term consequences. How willing are we to compromise our integrity to achieve our goals? The paths of Esau and Jacob, once so intertwined, were now dramatically diverging. While Jacob fled to distant lands, Esau remained in Canaan. His life took unexpected turns that would shape not only his personal future but also the destiny of an entire nation. Esau, the man of the field, the skilled hunter, now found himself at a crossroads. The loss of the paternal blessing and the rupture with his twin brother had left a void in his life. He would attempt to fill it in various ways. At 40, Esau made a decision that caused his parents great sorrow. He chose 2 Hittite women as wives. His family did not like this. The Hittites were not like Isaac and Rebekah's people. The Bible says that Isaac and Rebekah were sad about this. This short statement hides a deep family pain. Isaac and Rebekah felt betrayed. Esau's marriages broke promises made by God to Abraham. They diluted the chosen lineage. Imagine the tensions in Isaac's tent. Rebekah favored Jacob, but saw Esau's choices as proof that Jacob's son was the better choice to carry on the family legacy. Isaac felt divided. He loved his sons equally. Esau's Hittite wives brought new customs and beliefs to the family. Life in the patriarchal tent was once centered on traditions and worship of the God of Abraham. Now, foreign practices and ideas challenged this. Despite this, Esau did not seem to realize the impact of his choices. blessing. He chose a path that distanced him from his family's traditions. His actions shaped not only his future, but that of his entire lineage. Years passed, and life continued. Esau established his own household. He thrived as a hunter, and his skills earned him respect. His children were born, and grew up learning both their father's traditions and the customs of their Hittite mothers. Then one day news reached Esau. His brother Jacob was returning to Canaan with wives, children, and wealth. The news must have hurt Esau. Jacob had tricked him, stolen his blessing, and forced him into exile. Now he was returning in triumph. Esau made another decision about his marriage. He took a third wife, but this time it was strategic. Esau went to Ishmael, his father Isaac's half. Esau married Mahalath, daughter of Ishmael and sister of Nebaioth. This was not a random choice. By marrying a descendant of Abraham, Esau was trying to reconnect with his family roots. He was saying, I am part of this lineage. I carry Abraham's blood. Esau's marriage reveals much about his character and inner struggle. Despite his previous choices, he still yearned for acceptance and recognition. Perhaps by marrying Mahalath, he hoped to appease his parents' disappointment and reaffirm his place in Abraham's lineage. His place in Abraham's lineage. However, Esau's destiny was already in motion. His prior choices and the blessing that Jacob had received set a path for him and his descendants that would lead them away from the promised land. Over time, Esau and his family moved to the mountainous region of Seir, south of Canaan, was a shift in both geography and symbolism. By settling there, Esau was separating from the promised lineage and starting his own nation. He prospered, his descendants multiplied, and they became known as the Edomites. The Edomites were a people who played a significant role in Israel's history. The biblical narrative provides a detailed list of Esau's descendants in Genesis 36. Among his descendants were tribal chiefs, kings, and other powerful leaders. Edom was a powerful nation. It was inhabited by Esau's descendants. They were prosperous and feared. Isaac had blessed Esau. He said, "You will live away from the richness of the earth, the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and serve your brother. But when you become restless, you will break his yoke from your neck." In Seir, a dry and mountainous land, the Edomites indeed lived away from the richness of the earth. They became a warrior people, living by the sword. And although sometimes they were under Israel's rule, but they often rebelled. The story of Esau's marriages and descendants offers lessons. First, our choices, especially those related to marriage and family, can have far-reaching consequences. We are also reminded of the complexity of family relationships. Esau's story shows us how identity and belonging are central themes in the human experience. His marital choices reflect an internal struggle between the desire for independence and the need for connection with his roots. It also shows how one person's actions can affect the whole nation. What started as a fight between two brothers turned into a long-lasting conflict between two countries. Finally, the story of Esau and his descendants makes us think about the idea of blessings and curses. Even though he didn't get his father's blessing, Esau still became a successful leader. Esau was blessed by his father. He became the father of a powerful nation. This makes us wonder what a blessing is. Can you find purpose and meaning even when things don't go as planned? Esau's story doesn't end with him. His descendants, the Edomites, Edom and Israel would remain connected, reflecting the complex relationship between the twin brothers who founded these nations. Esau's journey from firstborn to father of a foreign nation is a story of choices. consequences and redemption. He found a new path through his marriages and descendants. Esau settled in the mountains of Seir, while Jacob worked for his uncle Laban for 20 years. Now, they were reuniting, but it was tense. Jacob returned to Canaan with his wives, children, and wealth. Jacob sent messengers to tell Esau he was coming. When the messengers came back, they said Esau was coming with 400 men. Jacob was scared. He remembered his brother's vow to get revenge. The night before the meeting, Jacob divided his camp and sent gifts to make peace with Esau. That night, Jacob had a famous fight with an angel. He got a new name, Israel, and a new perspective. The day of the meeting arrived. Jacob saw Esau approaching with his men. He bowed 7 times before his brother. But to his surprise and relief, Esau ran to meet him, embraced him, kissed him, and they both wept. This moment of reconciliation is one of the most powerful in the biblical narrative. Esau, the man who had sworn to kill his brother, now received him with open arms. Esau asked about the gifts Jacob had sent. Jacob replied, "To find favor in your eyes, my lord." Esau replied, "I have enough, my brother. Keep what is yours." This exchange reveals much about the transformation of both brothers. Jacob, once the deceiver, now humbled himself before Esau. Esau, who once valued his birthright so little that he sold it for a bowl of stew, now demonstrated a maturity and abundance that surprised Jacob. Despite the warm reconciliation, the brothers did not live together again. Esau went back to Seir, while Jacob settled in Canaan. This separation showed the different paths their lives and descendants would take. Esau's legacy was strong. His descendants, the Edomites, became a powerful nation. The land of Edom was rich in minerals and located along trade routes. It prospered for many centuries. However, the relationship between Edom and Israel was the nations founded by Esau and Jacob were often at war. Sometimes Israel ruled over Edom, as Isaac said Esau would. But sometimes Edom rebelled against Israel. One interesting thing about Esau is how he is remembered in Jewish and Christian tradition. Jacob is seen as the father of the 12 tribes. Esau is often seen as a bad guy, but the Bible shows he was impulsive but forgiving. He made peace with Jacob, which shows he was a good person. His story makes us think about how we value what we inherit and how our actions affect others. The story of Esau shows us that family relationships can be complex. Even after deep wounds, healing and reconciliation are possible. Our choices can affect not only our lives but also those of future generations. The Bible primarily focuses on Jacob's lineage, but it also mentions Esau's. Esau's path was different, but no less significant. His legacy is a testament to this. The story of Esau shows us that our lives are not defined by a single moment or choice, but by our actions and relationships. It teaches us that we can overcome even the deepest family divisions. The story continues to challenge us to consider our choices, relationships, and the legacy we will leave for future generations.